You don't have to smoke a single cigarette to have a smoker's lungs. Air fresheners, scented candles, non-stick pans, and new carpet are releasing the same class of chemicals into your airways every single day. But did you know that lung tissue is one of the few tissues in the human body that can genuinely regenerate? The lining, the blood vessel density, the cellular machinery, it can recover. The biology is already built in. Most people just never give it the conditions it needs. In this video, I'm breaking down 5 mechanisms that clean, repair, and restore lung function naturally. 1. The Mucociliary Escalator. Let's start with the mechanism your lungs use to clean themselves. One that's working right now or supposed to be. Lining your entire airway are millions of microscopic hairs called cilia. They beat in coordinated waves around 1,000 times per minute, sweeping debris, pathogens, and toxic particles upward and out of the lungs continuously. Sitting on top of them is a thin layer of mucus that acts like a conveyor belt, trapping particles, moving them up, out of the airway, away from the tissue. This system is called the Mucociliary Escalator. It is your lungs' first and most powerful line of defense. The problem is it breaks down silently. Dehydration thickens the mucus layer until the cilia can't move it. Mouth breathing bypasses the nasal passages that warm and humidify incoming air, sending dry air directly onto the cilia and slowing them down. Chronic exposure to pollutants, including the VOCs from those scented candles and cleaning sprays, directly paralyzes cilia function. When the escalator stops, debris doesn't leave. It sits in the airway, accumulates, and creates the perfect environment for infection and inflammation. The fix is simple but specific. Hydration is non-negotiable. The mucus layer is almost entirely water. Nasal breathing, not mouth breathing, restores the conditioning of incoming air. And reducing VOC exposure at home lets the cilia recover their beat frequency within days. This is the foundation. But the escalator only clears the airway. What clears the deeper lung tissue is entirely different. 2. The lymphatic drain. Most people know the lymphatic system exists. Almost nobody knows it runs directly through the lungs. Your lungs sit inside a dense net of lymphatic vessels. Their job is to filter cellular waste, clear immune debris, and drain inflammatory byproducts out of lung tissue. Without this drainage, waste accumulates in the tissue itself. Not the airway, but the actual lung parenchyma, the spongy tissue where oxygen exchange happens. Here's the critical detail. Unlike your blood, the lymphatic system has no pump. Your heart moves blood. Nothing moves lymph except muscle contraction and physical movement. A sedentary lifestyle means stagnant lymph. Stagnant lymph means debris accumulates in lung tissue over years. There was a study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology showing that even moderate aerobic exercise significantly increases lymphatic flow through the thoracic duct, the main drainage channel of the lungs. The mechanism is mechanical. The expansion and compression of the chest during exercise physically squeezes lymphatic vessels, pushing fluid through. You don't need intense exercise, you need consistent movement. Brisk walking, cycling, even intentional deep breathing creates enough thoracic pressure change to drive lymphatic drainage. The lymphatic system clears the tissue. But if the tissue itself is inflamed, drainage alone isn't enough. That requires targeting the inflammation directly. 3. The Inflammatory Reset. Chronic lung inflammation is quiet. It doesn't announce itself with pain. It shows up as slightly reduced capacity, a persistent mild cough, a susceptibility to every respiratory infection going around. Most people chalk it up to aging. It isn't aging. It's a sustained inflammatory state that can be directly addressed through diet. 2 compounds have the strongest research behind them for lung-specific inflammation. The first is quercetin. It's a flavonoid found in onions, apples, and capers. A clinical study published in Thorax found that higher quercetin intake was associated with significantly better lung function and lower rates of chronic respiratory disease. The mechanism is direct. Quercetin inhibits the release of histamine and pro-inflammatory cytokines, specifically in lung tissue. The second is omega-3 fatty acids. A large cohort study tracking over 700 adults found that higher omega-3 intake was consistently associated with slower decline in lung function over time. The pathway is prostaglandin suppression. Omega-3s directly compete with the inflammatory molecules that degrade the lung lining. This isn't about taking supplements. It's about regularly putting these compounds into your diet. Onions, walnuts, fatty fish, flaxseed, foods that are actively anti-inflammatory at the tissue level. The inflammation piece is critical, but there's a mechanical problem that no amount of diet fixes on its own. And this is where most people are losing capacity they don't even know they have. 4. The breathing mechanics fix. Here is a fact that should bother you. The average person uses roughly 30% of their total lung capacity in normal daily breathing. The lower lobes of the lungs, where the density of blood vessels is highest, where the most efficient gas exchange happens, are barely used. This isn't a disease, it's a mechanics problem. Most people are chest breathers, shallow, rapid, upper chest breathing that never fully expands the lower lobes. Over time, those lower regions develop what's called atelectasis, microcollapses of tiny air sacs called alveoli. Stagnant air sits in these pockets. Bacteria thrive in stagnant, warm, moist environments. This is how respiratory infections get a foothold even in people who consider themselves healthy. The fix is diaphragmatic breathing. The diaphragm is a dome-shaped muscle sitting below the lungs. When it contracts properly, it pulls downward, creating negative pressure that draws air into the lower lobes. Most people's diaphragms are underactivated. They've been chest breathing for so long the pattern is completely automatic. Retraining it takes about 2 weeks of deliberate practice. Lie flat, place one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. When you inhale, the hand on your abdomen should rise. The chest should barely move. 10 minutes a day. Within 2 weeks, lung capacity measurements in clinical trials show meaningful improvement. You are not stuck with 30%. You just have to use what's already there. Now we've covered how to clean the airway, drain the tissue, reduce inflammation, and recover capacity. But the fifth mechanism is the one that determines whether any of this actually works long-term. Because if you don't fix this, you are constantly refilling a bucket with a hole in it. 5. The toxic load reduction. This is the one that people resist because it requires looking at things they love. The average home contains dozens of sources of volatile organic compounds, VOCs. These are airborne chemicals that off-gas from everyday products and get inhaled directly into the airways. The list includes synthetic fragrances in candles and air fresheners, formaldehyde from new furniture and flooring, PFAS compounds from non-stick cookware at high heat, and chlorine byproducts from cleaning sprays. Individually, each exposure seems trivial. Collectively and chronically, they represent a sustained chemical assault on the same cilia, same lining, same tissue you are trying to repair. A 2018 study published in the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine tracked over 6,000 people over 20 years. Women who used household cleaning sprays regularly showed a decline in lung function equivalent to smoking 20 cigarettes a day. Not 1 pack a week, 1 pack a day. From cleaning products. The strategy is not paranoia, it is prioritization. Open windows when cooking or cleaning. Switch synthetic fragrances for unscented or naturally scented alternatives. Use a HEPA air filter in the rooms where you spend the most time, the bedroom especially since you're breathing that air for 8 hours straight. And add 1 or 2 plants shown to absorb VOCs. Snake plants and peace lilies have the strongest evidence. These are not dramatic changes, but they stop the daily assault that is undoing everything else. The unified picture. Your lungs are not passive, they are actively trying to clean and repair themselves every single day. The mucociliary escalator is sweeping, the lymphatic system is draining, the tissue is attempting to resolve inflammation, the alveoli are trying to stay open. The only question is whether you are helping or constantly working against it. Hydrate and breathe through your nose so the escalator can run. Move every day so the lymphatic drain stays open. Eat quercetin and omega-3s so the tissue can resolve inflammation. Practice diaphragmatic breathing so the lower lobes stay active. And reduce the toxic load in your home so you stop poisoning the system you're trying to repair. The lungs are forgiving. The cells of the airway lining replace themselves within days. The cilia recover their function within weeks of reduced exposure. Former smokers with decades of damage show measurable lung function recovery within months of the right conditions. You are not waiting for a cure. The repair system is already running. You just have to get out of its way. If this was useful, subscribe. There's a lot more of this kind of breakdown coming. And tell me in the comments, are you a mouth breather or a nose breather? Most people don't actually know until someone asks.